So now we're moving on to the movements for the upper body, and I'm going to start with a horizontal row. And by a horizontal row, I'm talking about a rowing movement in a horizontal direction, so pulling from here to here. A horizontal, obviously a vertical one would be from top down. And the most important thing before you start any rowing movement is getting the position of your shoulder blades right. I briefly spoke about it in the upper body video, so if you haven't watched it, go and check it out now. It's the previous one. And it's the whole idea of being able to be here, retract your shoulder blades back and make sure that those shoulder blades are nice and solid, because what's that going to do is going to keep our upper body in a nice strong position and also make it easier for us to engage the muscle that is going to produce that movement, which is the lats, obviously. For the horizontal rowing variation, I've chosen the TRX row. It's ideal because the increments at which you progress this exercise can be a lot smaller than jumping from one exercise to the other. And I'll go through it now. The difficulty of the exercise is dependent on your angle relative to the ground, but that is for a different day. Start facing the TRX straps, grab both handles and make sure your palms are facing each other and not up to the ceiling. Our feet are going to start flat down on the floor, but as we progress we will eventually bring our toes off the ground. Shoulder blades are pulled back and we begin the movement by pulling our elbows back. It's important that we initiate the movement with our elbows and not just our hands, as we want to work mainly the back during this exercise. Return to the start position slowly and repeat. That is our horizontal row. And our vertical pull then, so a vertical pull is going to work in a similar fashion. So again, when our hands are overhead, it's a little bit more challenging to do it while we're in this position in terms of pulling your shoulder blades back and down. But again, that's just going to put your shoulders in that safe and solid position that you don't end up hurting yourself. The setup for the vertical pull is pretty much the same, only this time obviously you're going to be in the rack, holding the bar. There are a lot of different variations that you can do with these in terms of your hand position, so you can go underhand, overhand, neutral grip, narrow grip, kind of like medium grip, and then kind of wide grip. Obviously each variation will have its own benefits and increases or decreases in difficulty. So underhand grip, grab the bar, squeeze your shoulder blades back together, pull your elbows down towards your hips and pull yourself up. Hold it at the top for 1 second and then slowly lower yourself down. That's one of the chin up. And check out a video that I did before a couple of weeks ago on how to band the pull-ups to make it easier. So a lot of people tend to band it from the top, which takes some weight off, but this way is a lot easier and it's easier to progress. So go and check that out. It should be up here, and let me know what you think. So moving on to the pushing exercise, so you've got your vertical push, which would be shoulder press, and the horizontal push would be push-up. Again, check out the push-up video I did a couple of weeks ago as well. Again, I'll leave the link up here. Again, just takes you through those progressions of the push-up, makes it a little bit easier for you. And like I said, push-up or pressing and pushing movements work in the same way. So you still have to start the movement with your shoulder blades pulled back nice and solid. Elbows will be tucked in relatively tight, and also what you're working is pushing the bar or pushing yourself away from the midline of your body. Upper body strength is crucial for some sports in terms of like rugby and GAA, whereas for some others it's not that important. So we'd say, like for example, in an outfield soccer player, upper body strength isn't that important, but it's obviously going to help, whereas it's massively important for a rugby player or a GAA player, or even someone like a tennis player, a golfer. Again, these things, so depending on what sport you're in, will dictate the focus that you place or the time given to your upper or lower body. For the overhead press or vertical push, the variation I've chosen is the half kneeling shoulder press. This variation is ideal to create a lot of stability in the lower body to assist with pressing. It also takes the leg drive out of the exercise and allows the athlete to really engage the core. For this, we'll also be performing the exercise with 2 hands on the dumbbell as opposed to 1. This will allow us to move more weight but also maintain stability in the shoulder joint and allows us to learn the proper exercise mechanics of an overhead press. Starting kneeling on the floor at the bottom of the lunge position. For this you may have to go back and rewatch the video. Front knee is above the ankle, back knee is below the hip, torso is upright and your hands are on the outside of the dumbbell holding on tightly. Take a big deep breath in, brace as if you're going to get punched in the stomach, and then press the dumbbell overhead. The dumbbell should finish directly overhead with your upper arms in line with your ears. Hold at the top for 1 second and then slowly lower it back down to the start position. Try and keep your elbows tucked in tightly so they don't flare out to the sides. This is the most basic variation of the overhead press. As always, nail this variation and progression will happen so much faster in the long term. So I've labeled these as big 7 because they are the most important movement patterns that you'll need to know, and every other exercise is derived from one of these movement patterns in some way, and the variation that you use will depend a lot on your age, your training age, your goals, your available range of motion at a specific joint. Again, a lot of you that are watching this are kind of in the beginning phases, kind of youth athletes, so a lot of that in terms of the available range of motion that you have shouldn't be an issue, because what the focus should be as well is trying to maximize the range of motion that you have at each joint, because obviously as you're younger, you should by right have a larger available range of motion than an adult should have, but what's happening obviously in the last kind of 10, 15, 20 years is that kids are losing that because they're not using it, but again, that's a point for another day. So thank you for watching, so stay tuned for the next video and we'll start to get into a little bit more of the practical advice to make sure that you as a youth athlete, or your child as a parent of a youth athlete, is on the right path to youth athlete development, and that you're not doing more harm than good. Again, if you have any questions on things that you'd like me to cover or that I've said in this first 2 or 3 videos, let me know and I'll cover over it. Again, like I said in many of the clips, if you nail the basics you will go a long way. So stay tuned and I will catch you guys in the next one.